So after almost 20 years of helping people plan and execute their retirement goals, I've got 5 retirement traps I've seen a lot of people fall into, and I want to make sure that you don't. So by the end of this video, we're going to go through all 5 of those and strategies that can help you avoid the same retirement traps I've seen way too many people go through. So before we jump into that, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit a like, and do us a favor. If you have yourself fallen into any retirement traps, drop those into the comments. I'd love to hear some of the other things that you've gone through personally or somebody that you know. Make sure you drop those in the comments, because if one story can help someone else, you're doing yourself a good deed. All right, so let's dive into these 5 retirement traps. And there is a common theme, and I want to see if you can guess what that common theme is. Now, the first retirement trap that I've seen people fall into is that they work way too long. And what I mean by that is that they have all the money they need to retire. Their retirement plan says that they're completely funded to be able to live their life and not have to worry about money, but yet they still keep working. It's not because they love their job, it's that they keep working because they're worried that they're not going to have enough money in retirement, even though all of the numbers can say that they can live and maintain their lifestyle without having to worry about it. So where we've seen this issue happen is where people aren't confident in their long-term retirement plan. And so how do you get confident with that? Well, really where you want to start is by making sure that you're reviewing your retirement plan on an ongoing basis. Review it through different market cycles. Know whether or not you're going to be on track regardless of what the market's doing. And this is really relevant to a recent client that came to us, and they felt like they could retire. They felt like the money was okay, but what happened was they just were too scared to retire. And so after months and months of helping them plan and show them that over the course of different market cycles, whether the market was up or the market was down, they were still okay to retire, and their long-term retirement picture wasn't going to be in danger. That's one of the issues that I've seen with people that are focused on retirement planning today, is that they work way too long. They work years later than they need to because of some sort of fear of not feeling confident in their long-term financial picture. For a lot of people, they will wait to retire till these milestone ages, whether that's 62 when they can start taking Social Security, or 65 for Medicare, or 67 at full retirement age. But it always doesn't have to be some sort of milestone age. If the numbers tell you that you could retire and you want to retire because you want to explore life, you want to not have to clock in every single day, well, then make sure that you're spending the time doing the planning part of it first. Update your financial plan, stress test your financial plan, see what it's going to take to run out of money so that you know what to avoid. That's how you can avoid running into this retirement trap where you're working years after your initial plan was. Now, the second retirement trap that I've seen people fall into is they take Social Security too early, not out of any planning, but really out of this fear that Social Security is not going to be there for them. There's so many stories out there about Social Security going bankrupt, and we've covered a lot here on this channel too, just to debunk that risk and debunk that fear, because so many people will take Social Security when it doesn't make sense. And I've seen people take it when they're still working, which means that it's going to be taxable at a higher rate. I've seen people take it, earlier and impact their long-term retirement picture because of the fact they're worried that it's not going to be there for them. When we look at the studies, yes, the trust fund is expected to run out in 2035. But does that mean that Social Security is going away completely? Absolutely not. Studies have shown, as we've covered on this channel before, even if we get to 2035 and there's no change in the Social Security rules or how they're funding it, it's still going to be able to pay just about 80% of scheduled benefits. So the last thing you want to do is make a Social Security decision based on some article or headline, based on your individual life, your financial plan, and your family's goals. Because Social Security is not going away tomorrow. Yes, is it likely to change at some point down the road? Possibly, but that also might be a change that is in your favor. So instead of making a decision based on news and headlines today that are about the future, focus on your individual financial plan. Now, the third retirement trap that I've seen people fall into is especially relevant today, which is making investment decisions based on politics. Look, I get it. Politics, they are crazy, and they make people very uneasy, especially as we go through election cycles like we're doing right now. And there's a lot of headlines that can sway one way or the other and cause volatility in the markets. That's completely understandable. But instead of investing based on who's in the White House or who's in Congress, the reality is we live in a capitalistic society where corporations want to make money, people want to save and earn more money, and people want to eventually retire. And if we go back over the past 40 to 50 years, every single president has seen an all-time high in the market during their presidency, regardless of whether they were Republican or Democrat. You can take a look at this chart here that shows what happens if you invest only with Democrats or only with Republicans, or if you invested when both parties are in office. As you can see, you're much better off ignoring the political spectrum completely when you're talking about investing, because the reality is whoever's sitting in the White House doesn't really impact what's happening in the stock market. Yes, they can help influence policy and government spending, but at the end of the day, they're not going to make any big impact on the overall stock market, especially in the near term. Now, the fourth retirement trap that I've seen people fall into is they get locked into an annuity based on fear. Because let's face it, the fear of running out of money in retirement is a true and real fear. It's the number one fear that retirees have. And it makes sense because you're stepping into this world of there's no more salary, there's no more income, and you're hoping that the savings that you've accumulated over the course of your lifetime is going to be enough to catch you on this fall. And there's this big fear that if you run out of money in your 70s and 80s, you're not going to want to be able to put together a resume when you're 80 years old. Like, I get that. But at the same time, annuities, they sound great because of the fact that they're sold with all these amazing benefits. Hey, you can, get a certain rate of return. You can, outperform the market. There's no downside. You can get guaranteed income. They sound fantastic. And I'm not saying that annuities are bad by any means, but what I've seen happen over the course of my career is that people put 100% of their money or somewhere close to 100% of their money into these vehicles. And the problem with that is it locks up your money in this long-term investment vehicle, and it really impacts if you need any liquidity anytime soon, because they've got high fees, they've got surrender penalties if you take money out early on. And where this really comes into play is if there's any need for additional income in retirement. Let's say you've got this annuity that's giving you a guaranteed rate of income while you're retired. And at that same time, you need a new car, a new roof, and so you need a lump sum of money from somewhere to help fund these things. The problem is if you tap into that annuity, it's going to impact the benefits that you have. It's going to cost you probably more money in fees because of the surrender penalties associated with it. And I get it. There's all these insurance salesmen that are going to talk about how you can get a free amount out per year. But why do you want all of your money locked away in something that is just there based on fear? The way I always put it to clients is that annuities are like tanks. You don't see many of them rolling down the freeway at any time soon, because tanks are there for one thing. They're there for protection. Annuities, they're there for protection. And it's not saying that annuities are bad, because a part of your retirement strategy may be to have protection within your portfolio if it makes sense. But getting locked into 100% of your savings really is a trap that I've seen too many people fall into, and it's the biggest regret that I've seen people face, that they know that their money is there, that they can't really touch it. So instead of buying something just because it sounds good, because it has no risk to the downside, and you get this guaranteed income stream, and you never have to worry about running out of money because you're gonna have a guaranteed lifetime income, instead of doing that, start by focusing on your financial plan. Run your financial plan in your long-term retirement with the annuity and without it. And make sure that you're making the decisions based on the numbers, not the feeling. Because I've seen way too many people get locked into these things and they just can't get out of them. I had a client who referred their 82-year-old aunt to us. And I sat down with their aunt and we went through all of her investments, and she had all of her money that was put into this annuity. She had some health issues and she needed money to help pay for these things. The penalties just to get her money out were extreme, and it was very hard to make the case that it was the best thing to take the money out of the annuity to fund some of these issues that she was having. But it's what we had to do because she needed to make sure she tapped into that money as soon as possible. Don't fall into that trap. Make sure that anytime you're buying any sort of product that has a holding period, that you are doing it because it's in your best interest and not the person that's selling it. Just remember, annuities, they're the highest commissionable products offered in the financial services industry. So make sure that it's in your best interest and not just the person that's selling it to you. Okay, so now for the last and final retirement trap that I've seen people fall into. Now, before I dive into that, once again, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you've fallen into any of these traps, drop it in the comment below. I'd love to hear what you've fallen into, what you've seen people fall into, so we can help everybody avoid some bad mistakes when going into retirement. Now, the fifth and final retirement trap is actually underspending. I've seen so many people that are retired that can spend more money in retirement, but they don't do that, and they limit their lifestyle because they're worried that they're going to spend too much in a given year. So they sacrifice that vacation with their family, or the ability to help their grandkids with college, because of the fact that they're worried that they're going to run out of money. when if they were just to look at their ongoing retirement plan and they were updated every single year, they're going to identify in any year whether or not they're spending too much. And that's where we try to make it a habit to plan for retirement even when you're in retirement. I've seen so many people that they put together this retirement plan, they get to that point of retirement, and then they just never come back to it. Look, retiring, this is not like putting together an estate plan or doing your taxes every single year. This isn't a set it and forget it thing. Once you retire, that's the most important time to plan, because we want to know, are you spending more money than you should be, or are you spending less than you can? Because if you can spend more money, especially in the years where you're able to travel, you've got your health on your side, why not do it? Because one of the things I've seen happen way too often is that trips are always delayed. Experiences are always delayed with family, and they're delayed for years. It's, oh, we'll eventually do that trip, and we'll eventually spend time and visit this family in this state. But what happens is it's not something that anybody can plan for, but at some point, traveling might not be feasible. And there's going to be a point where you're not able to make it on a plane. You're not able to go on a long drive because it's uncomfortable. And so while you can, while your health is on your side, try to make sure that you're living life to its fullest, because foregoing some of those experiences and really truly maximizing the retirement lifestyle just because of any sort of worry or fear that you're going to run out of money later on, that's just not the way to live the true retirement that you probably dreamed of when you entered retirement. So instead of worrying about it, make sure you're putting together a plan. This isn't to say go out and just start spending money freely, but it's about making sure that you're able to budget every single year and you have a true understanding of what you're spending. Because retirement spending, it's not this static line. It's not something that just goes up every single year based on the cost of living adjustment from Social Security or inflation. Retirement is going to have ebbs and flows. There are going to be years where you're going to spend a lot more, years where you spend less, and you just want to make sure that over the long period of time that you're retired, that you're not putting your future in danger. And so the only way to do that is by actively planning. It's not by underspending or cutting things out. So those are the 5 retirement traps I've seen people fall into. Now let me ask you, did you catch what the common theme was? Well, the common theme in this case that I've seen over almost 20 years of doing this is that people lack confidence in their financial plan. They make decisions based on fear instead of actually understanding what the numbers say. And so how do you avoid that? Well, the best thing you could do is plan. And I know it sounds boring. Nobody likes a budget. I get that. But make sure that you have an idea of what you're spending. Update your financial plan on a regular basis, whether that's every quarter, whether that's every 6 months. You got to do it at least once a year, but just make sure that you're coming back to it. It's going to help you feel a lot more confident in your long-term retirement picture, especially if you're doing this year after year after year, because we're going to go through different market cycles. We're going to go through times where the market's up and everything's going to look great. But you also want to know, how do things look when the market's not so good? And that's what it's going to show you as well if you create a routine around it. So I hope that was helpful. That's what I've seen over almost 20 years of doing this. I hope you're able to avoid some of those traps. If you have questions, we'd be happy to help you out. There's a link in the description below. You can schedule some time with one of our advisors, and we would be happy to run a retirement analysis for you to see what retirement looks like for you and your family. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.